Welcome into Sports Memo's Betting Podcast, College Football Bowl Edition with Mid-Major Matt. Mid-Major Matt, welcome in the pod. How are you?
Drew, some would say this is the most exciting part of the college football season. All these bowl games, these random matchups, great exotic locales. Excited to start digging into some of these things.
Me as well. I definitely am as well, Matt, for proper English there. And we'll start off at the top of the card. You're right. Exotic places. The first bowl game, Matt, isn't even on U.S. soil. We're talking 201-202 Buffalo versus Charlotte. This one in the Nassau, Bahamas, on the island. -6.5 now we're seeing Buffalo. 52 being the total here, Matt. How are you starting off on the kickoff here of bowl season?
Well, remember, this is, from what I've read, there's going to be a big-time wind problem here, about 20, 25-mile-an-hour winds, which is going to affect things a little bit. And plus the locale, remember, this is a bowl game that's being played in the Bahamas. You know these kids are going to spend some time on the beach. You know these kids are going to spend some time in the exotic parts of the Bahamas, so the focus could be a little bit of an issue. A couple of things here. Buffalo, 24-14 against the spread the last 3 seasons. They've scored 40 points or more in 4 times in their last 5 games. The Patterson kid at running back. Look, they've got 2 fantastic running backs, Marks and Patterson. Patterson has rushed for 940 yards and 13 touchdowns in his last 5 games. Buffalo's only given up 8 sacks this season, so the Van Treese kid has been protected pretty well. On the Charlotte side, they've gone under in 4 of their last 6. They've given up nearly 200 rushing yards per game this season. It's also their first ever bowl game. First ever bowl game, exotic locale. I would have played the under, but the betting public has already played the under down to 52 or so, and it's almost to the point now where it's not even worth it. Now, look, I think Buffalo is going to want to pound the ball a little bit. I think Charlotte's going to struggle, but they're such a wild card, the 49ers offense, throughout the year. You know, you got Reynolds, Tucker, and LeMay, the big 3 for them. I'd lean to Buffalo. I think they're going to be more focused in this situation. I think they're going to get what they want on the ground. I think they have the better defense in this one. With regards to the total, I would have played the under higher now, but like 52, maybe a little bit of the value's gone.
So Mid-Major Matt, liking Buffalo as a favorite here, like in the MAC team. I mean, the MAC is also, last 3 years, 2-15 straight up in bowl games, but you're liking them to win by more than a touchdown here.
Well, look, it's not one of my favorite things, but I've been told in these videos I have to start being definitive here. Here's what I will say. I would say in your confidence pools, I like Buffalo a lot. I think they would be like a middle to higher tier confidence team. Once again, also, if you're looking at teasers, which is a little harder in bowl games, since it is at 6.5, you find a nice 6-point teaser, and then essentially they just have to win. The thing is, we just have to find a couple of other teams, which I'm sure we will as we go down the line. So those are probably the better options here. Instead of just taking them minus the 6.5, throw them in a money line parlay with a couple of other things maybe you like better. It is a big number. Yes, I think they win the game. That's why I think the money line or a teaser or something else would be maybe a better way to attack this game.
And Matt's right. We have seen a 5.5 point move here towards the under. Wind might be an issue. Other reasons, one of maybe being these 2 teams have combined for 92 average for their rush attempts per game. Not a lot of passing from either of these 2 teams, so the clock should be running, pointing maybe towards an under here, but we are seeing 52 as we're talking right now. I guess it is, Wednesday where you are, Matt. This is, after midnight on the East Coast for you. Thanks for staying up with us, Matt.
Yeah, no problem. And also, Drew, I think the betting public and the public in general doesn't want to see unders. So I think we could see some betting on the over as we get closer to these kickoffs, because these are the only football games, certainly on Friday, that will be on TV. No one wants to root for an under, so maybe we see a small pushback up a little bit in the over. Then you wait and hammer the under once again.
Matt, next game up, we got a doubleheader on Friday to kick off bowl season, and this is an intriguing one, Matt. You can make an argument here for both sides, where we got another MAC team, which is always an interesting kind of handicap in bowl season. We got a Mountain West team. I'm talking Kansas State versus Utah State here. This is the Frisco, Texas bowl game. We're seeing Utah State mostly -6 now. There is 5.5s out there, 65 the total, Matt. And intriguing handicap for the conferences. Also, Kent State, let's face it, not one of the better programs in college football history. Utah State quarterback going to the NFL. Also, marijuana citation. Is he playing? Is he not playing? I'll throw it over to you.
So Jordan Love, the whole thing, the story started out, he's announcing he's going pro, but he's playing in the bowl game. On Tuesday afternoon, he gets pinched for marijuana. The line goes down. Then there starts to be trickling out that he's going to play in the game anyway. Him and, by the way, the leading rusher, Gerald Bright, who was also as part of this thing, and then a wide receiver who has one catch in the season. But it looks like both of them are going to play. I don't know if there's gamesmanship, but then it went down to 4.5. Then we saw a bit of buyback when everybody saw, the quarterback's going to play. So there's some 5.5s, as you said, and there's some 6s probably out there as well. Utah State has allowed 30 points or more in 4 of their last 6. They've been crushed on the ground. New Mexico put up 276. Boise State nearly 300. BYU 221. You look at this Kent State team, and we're going to talk about this a lot with these bowl games. Motivation. How happy are you going to be to play in these games? I think Kent State's got to be really stoked to be here. 30-plus points in 5 of their final 6 games. They've won 3 straight. They've covered 5 straight as an underdog. The Crum kid, 2,336 yards passing, 18 touchdowns throwing, and 2 interceptions. He leads the team in rushing yards. Look, that gimmick may work in the MAC. It may struggle a little bit against Utah State. Here's another trend. Kent State has scored 17 or more first-half points in 3 of their last 4 games. Utah State has given up 87 points in the first half of their last 3 games, with 73 of those coming in the final 2 games. Makes you think about maybe a first half over. Makes you think about Kent State potentially as a team that you want to back in this situation. If Jordan Love's going to play, I think the buyback may continue a little bit. It may get to 6.5. If there's any 7s, look, I'm jumping on a 7. I think Kent State is going to be really motivated to play in this game. I'm very afraid of backing as many MAC teams as I am. They are getting back a junior safety, Quantrez Knight. He had a head injury that kept him out the past 2 games. But a starting corner is missing the first half after being called for targeting in the regular season finale against Eastern Michigan. Maybe a first half overplay would be in play here, assuming that Utah State comes back and forth with Kent State. We've seen Kent State have some success in the first half. I think my plays here are probably Kent State in the over here. I think there's a small chance the Golden Flashes win this game outright. So maybe if you want to sprinkle a little bit on the money line, but I'm leaning Kent State here, but I may wait till that gets to 6.5 or even 7.
All right, mid-major Matt. Let's move to the Saturday card. Next game up, 207-208. Central Michigan at San Diego State. We're talking the Chippewas and the Aztecs in the New Mexico Bowl. Looks like -3 in the hook as we're talking right now. That's the Aztecs laying in this one. 40.5 looks to be the lowest totaled bowl game. Not sure on the back half of the bowl sheet, but very low total either way you look at it. CMU, San Diego State, 3rd game up, 3rd MAC team. You're going to make it 3 in a row on CMU back in the MAC here, mid-major Matt?
More than 23 points all year. They have not scored more than 17 points in 4 consecutive games, and all 4 of those opponents were ranked outside the top 60 in total defense. They've gone under in 20 of their last 29 non-conference games. A couple of injuries to note. Ryan Agnew, calf injury, looks like he's going to play. I have zero respect for the guy. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I think the offense is just okay with him. Juwan Washington, he's got an ankle injury. They're saying questionable, but if you read between the lines, it looks like he's doubtful. That means they've got 4 guys, Chance Bell, Chase Jasmine, Jordan Bird, Keegan Williams, as some of the guys who may try and replace him in the running game. The other thing that's not being talked about as much, this is just the second early game of the year for San Diego State. Remember, they play out in California. They don't get a lot of noon kickoffs, 2:30 kickoffs, whatever it is. They beat UCLA in an early kickoff. I was reading about their coach. He said that the biggest adjustment is they're going to be decreasing the intensity of their practice leading up to the games because of how early the game's going to kick off. Just something to consider there on the Aztec side. With regards to Central Michigan, they've faced 3 top 20 defenses so far this season. They lost all 3 games. They went 1-2 against the spread. They managed just 32 points against Wisconsin, Miami, and Buffalo. They had 9 turnovers in those 3 contests. They're 35th overall in total defense. They are holding opponents to a 3.34 yards per carry. Of course, they haven't probably faced a rushing attack outside of those 3 I just mentioned as good as San Diego State. Darius Bracey, a very good cornerback in that secondary. We don't know what his status has been. He's been out since November 2nd. I think this could be a play on the money line for San Diego State. I don't like either team. If I don't have to play this game, I don't want to play this game because there's just no interest. The one thing I may look at, as I said, the public doesn't want to bet unders. They don't want to watch these games and root against touchdowns. If this could somehow get up to 41.5 or 42, a key number, I'm looking at the under here. This game screams like 17-13, 20-17. I just don't see a lot of points in this one, but I'm going to wait and see if there's a little more value on the under in this one.
All right. He's Mid-Major Matt. Follow him on Twitter at Mid-Major Matt. I am Drew Martin on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Appreciate the guys chiming in on Twitter with some questions for this podcast we will get to in just a second. Next game up here, Matt, we got 209-210 Liberty at Georgia Southern. Looks like Georgia Southern minus 4.5 here. This one in Orlando. It's at the soccer stadium, the soccer stadium that the Orlando MLS team plays at. 58.5 being the total here, Matt.
Georgia Southern's gone over in 4 or 5 and 5 of their last 7. If you want to beat Georgia Southern on defense, you're going to want to throw on them. They gave up 38 points to Arkansas State, who threw for 354 yards. They gave up 49 to Troy because they also were able to throw on them. Liberty has got Buckshot Calvert and Antonio Gandy Golden, a very potent duo. Number 1 and 1A on every scouting report, but still, they managed to get open. No Damian King, which hurts the offense. No Khalib Coleman, who is the best special teams player for Liberty, but it looks like Brandon Tillman's cleared. He was dealing with some issues. He might have a club on his hand. Bejar Wilson, a cornerback on this team, looks like he's going to play. It's the first ever bowl game for Liberty. They're going to be really excited. I think a lot of Lynchburg's going to be at this game. I had a chance to talk to a player on Liberty about preparations. Look, they saw the triple option last year. They lost 38-14 to Army, so that's not exactly encouraging. I think when Georgia Southern's on, the triple option's very tough. But the Shea Wertz kid, he's had his struggles at times. I lean to the over in this one. I think we see a lot of points. The problem will be is if Georgia Southern starts going on these 18-play drives. If you take the over, you're almost hoping that they break 1 or 2 runs on Liberty. The Flames come right back down, throw on them. So I could see an over in this game because, look, Liberty is going to be excited to be there. Georgia Southern's triple option. I think the over is the way to go potentially in this one.
Mid-Major Matt, did you get a chance to check out? Yeah, I know you did, but I want to throw this question to you. Liberty's wins, is this the weakest resume you can remember for a bowl team? New Mexico State twice, UMass, Maine, New Mexico, Hampton, and Buffalo. Now, Buffalo is a bowl team. Outside of that, there isn't a lot there, Matt. Does that scare you with the Flames?
It does. I put up as my free play, at least early on, Liberty +6 because I thought that Liberty's offense was going to find some success. It does scare me that then when they take the steps up. Now, granted, look, playing Syracuse, playing UMass, or playing Rutgers, playing BYU, playing Virginia, that's way bigger step than what Georgia Southern's going to be. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, the physical nature of some of the teams – look, Rutgers pushed them around, and we know how bad Rutgers is. That's very scary, which is why I lean more now to the over, because I figure if Georgia Southern does score, Liberty should be able to come back. Look, Liberty scored on Rutgers. Liberty scored on BYU. Liberty even scored on Virginia. So, their offense should be able to carry some weight in this thing, and that's why the over is probably the best play in this game.
Makes a lot of sense here because this might be a great live betting opportunity because if Liberty can't stop Georgia Southern option in the first quarter, it's usually one of those things. They're not going to be able to stop it in the second, third, and fourth. So I might wait here for the first kind of possession and kind of go a little bit bigger on the over if they're not able to stop it. But good stuff, Matt. Breaking down Liberty, Georgia Southern. We got next game up 211-212 here. Talk about fascinating handicaps. We got another one. This one is the Boca Bowl. SMU at FAU, and I say actually it is. They're at their home field here. We got -3. That's SMU lane on the road. 70.5 the total here, Matt.
I don't know what SMU's motivation level is going to be for this game. They had such high hopes. They were a team that's going to make that New Year's Day Bowl. They were going to represent the group of 5, and then the bottom kind of just dropped out. And look, they've had 5 games of totals with 70 or more this season, and they went over 3 times. Bouchel, we know how good he is. We know how good the Prochet kid is at wide receiver. It doesn't look like Reggie Roberson's going to play in this one. We know SMU can run it. But they're 99th in the country due to allowing 32 points and 440 yards per game. They have 50 sacks. 12 and a half of those sacks came from their safety, Patrick Nelson. So that tells me a lot about SMU's defense. On the other side, FAU, they lose Lane Kiffin, but the defensive coordinator is taking over. One of the questions here, and this is another one of those things we have to read between the tea leaves, tight end Harrison Bryant is dealing with an illness. He's been dealing with the illness since he flew to, I believe, in Atlanta when they gave out the Mackey Award. He has yet to participate in practice. He was listed on the depth chart. But everybody around the program seems to think he's very questionable to play. If he doesn't play, that's a huge weapon that Robeson doesn't have. FAU 5-1 in their last 6 games, with 5 covers being by an average of 19 points. So they're playing good football right now. They've had totals of 70 or more just twice the last 3 seasons. So this is a new situation for them. They faced UCF at home, gave up 48 points to UCF. That was the only competent offense that they've seen at home. They have the best turnover differential in the nation. You're right. This is a fascinating game. If I knew SMU was motivated to play in this game, even though it's a true road game, I'd lean to SMU. But I really have to wonder where their head is. If you don't get a focus SMU, maybe the over's a play. As you mentioned for the last game, Drew, this could be a perfect live betting situation. Is Harrison Bryant going to play? How motivated is FAU to be home without Lane Kiffin? I know it's their defensive coordinator, so there's some continuity there, but there's a lot of question marks in this game. So this might be a perfect live betting situation to see what kind of SMU we get in the first quarter.
Yeah, Matt, great breakdown there. And I'll talk just the Owls, because I watched almost every game of their season, bet on a lot of them as well. 10-3, 9-4 ATS. They were a great bet this season. Plus the fact their last 10 games, they went 10-1 straight up after the first 2 games. You mentioned it, the gauntlet. They played Ohio State and then UCF. Kind of tough goes there, and then went 10-1 down the back half. I had them circled, man, even with or without Lane Kiffin, as bet on in the bowl game. I feel like they got a tough draw here, though. SMU. I kind of backed off on just kind of betting them blindly into the bowl game, seeing SMU, but I don't know, man. This is going to be a fun one in Boca. Try to go to it. You mentioned the wind in the last game, or the 2 games ago. This is 25 miles per hour projected in South Florida this day. So watch this one, also the one in Orlando on Saturday. Make sure to check the weather report. Should be pretty windy down there in the Sunshine State this weekend. We got 213, 214 up next. The other FAU's rival, Matt, the Shula Bowl rival, FIU at Arkansas State. We're seeing Arkansas State minus 2.5, 62.5 the total here, Matt.
Everybody thought that Arkansas State was going to fall apart this year when their quarterback got hurt. Lane Hatcher, the true freshman, has stepped in. He's been fantastic. Omar Bayless is one of the best wide receivers that I'm betting most of the country doesn't know. About nearly 1,500 receiving yards, 16 touchdowns. They've used 39 different starters this season. 32 players have missed at least one game, and 21 have missed multiple contests due to injury, including 14 starters at the time. So this is a Red Wolves team that's been through a lot this season. You know they're going to be really excited to be in this one. They've allowed 37 sacks this season, tied for 117th in the nation. And finally, they're 122nd in rush defense. Only Kent State is worse than them as any bowl-eligible teams. So Arkansas State is going to score. They're also going to allow some points, hence the high total. On the FIU side, I feel like FIU's season peaked after they beat Miami. They went 2-3 down the stretch. They scored just 105 points over that 5-game span, which is an average of 21. But they beat Miami, and then the game afterwards, that was the most obvious play ever, that they were not going to be focused and ready for the game after beating Miami and after hearing all week about how they're the team in Florida. So, I feel like their season kind of peaked there. The defense gave up at least 200 rushing yards to 6 opponents. They gave up 360 to Tulane, 471 to Middle Tennessee State, 261 to Florida Atlantic in the Shula Bowl. I don't love either team in this one. Arkansas State's defense scares me. Florida International scares me in terms of the fact that I feel like they beat Miami. Their season's over. They got everything they needed. Butch Davis is going to motivate his guys. Small lean to Arkansas State, maybe on the money line. Maybe you tease this one, throw it with that first game we talked about. But small lean to Arkansas State in this one. But I don't love this game.
Next game up, night game here at 7:30 Eastern kick. Washington, Boise State here, Matt. We got the Huskies minus 3 in the hook, 50 the total.
Are you going to this game?
Is this in Las Vegas?
This is the Las Vegas Bowl.
Man, on Thursday I'm flying to Fort Lauderdale for Christmas, Matt. So I'm planning on going to the Boca Bowl if it's nice weather. I'm going to miss the Las Vegas Bowl.
I was trying to get the trends as to what the team's like when you're in attendance, so that's why I was trying to, to get that angle from you.
Let's see. Boise State is 1-0 at any game I've been to. I went when they played UNLV. So if you want to use that as a trend.
There are a lot involved here. Washington, it's obviously Chris Pearson's last game, which is going to be very motivating for Washington. But we've already seen 2 of their guys announce that they're not playing the bowl game. Hunter Bryant, the tight end, and Trey Adams, the offensive lineman. Both of them have announced they're going to be prepping for the NFL draft. That's 2 big things right there. Washington's allowed just 20.4 points per game, third-ranked defense in the Pac-12 in terms of yards allowed. On the Boise State side, their offensive coordinator is going to Arizona State, so who knows what's going to happen there. They are going to use one of the assistant coaches as the offensive coordinator. It's going to be kind of an addition for him because if they do well, it looks like he may get the job. Doesn't look like any players are sitting out in this one. Good thing. Quarterback situation. Just saw a tweet a couple of hours ago. Brian Harsin says he expects Hank Bachmeier and or Chase Cord to play in Saturday's game. Of course, we've heard that the past couple weeks, and it's been Jalen Henderson playing quarterback, so I don't know who to believe necessarily in this one. The other weird factor for this one, Drew, do you remember what happened to Boise State in their bowl game last year?
Not off the top of my head, no.
That was the game that got postponed in the first quarter, and they never came back out. They essentially made the trip for nothing. So, look, this is going to be – it's a weird handicapping angle for this one, is that they didn't play in last year's game. This is such a tough game to handicap. Boise going up against their former coach who's coaching his last game. Washington's got two guys who are not playing already. Boise State loses their offensive coordinator. We don't know who their quarterback is. There's a lot of question marks. It's a really intriguing game to watch, Drew, but I don't know how I feel in this game in terms of handicapping. What are your early thoughts on this one?
I like Boise State here, Matt. I got real question marks about Washington wanting to be here and laying a number in Las Vegas. I just feel like Chris Peterson, there's more to what we're hearing about this, him stepping away or whatever the case is. And I've seen Boise State play a bunch, man. This is a really good team. One kind of bad game away from running the table on their schedule. I think Boise State's the side, man.
Could be, and they'll be more motivated to get a Pac-12 team in this game than a Pac-12 team is going to be for Boise State. And as you said, I just would love to know, the fact that two players are already prepping for the NFL draft for Chris Peterson's last game, I don't know if that's a bad sign or anything. Like, hey, we're not as motivated to play for this guy, but it's still something. And, I kind of lean to Boise State, but this one won't be on my card.
And talk about great handicaps, to start off college football bowl season. We got last game up on Saturday, UAB versus App State. Maybe not the greatest of handicaps, but we are throwing out there a 16.5-point favorite with App State going against the runner-up in Conference USA, UAB Blazers, 48 being the total. Bill Clark, I believe, is still at UAB, Matt. Haven't seen anything otherwise. App State's coach Drinkowitz, who I had circled as bet on all the way. A Gus Malzahn disciple, extra time to prepare, but he takes the Mizzou job. So kind of some moving parts in this one, UAB App State, Matt.
Yeah, Sean Clark is, I believe he's the offensive line coach. He's staying. He's going to coach the team. They actually named him the full-time coach. So that's good. At least for the App State side, you've got some continuity. App State is 10-6 against the spread when they're a favorite between 10.5 and 21 points, 3-1 so far this season. We know how good their defense is, 22nd best in scoring defense. They've held 7 opponents to 15 points or less. Look, this is an App State team. I feel bad for App State. They had a really good season, and here they are in the New Orleans Bowl. And, it's a nice payoff because you get to go to New Orleans. But, how excited are you to be a massive favorite against UAB? UAB is 25-14-1 the last 3 seasons against the spread. They've gone under in 22 of those 40 games. They've had 25 turnovers with 12 of them in their 4 losses. I don't know what UAB does really well, which makes me believe Bill Clark's going to be a genius head coach because, I don't know what UAB does well in this game. I don't know how good their defense is. They've shown up sometimes. They haven't in others. How motivated is App State for this one? I have a lean to the under here because I feel like App State's defense is going to shut down UAB. But if App State's not motivated to be there, maybe that side of the ball is less, there's a lot of question marks. I never like to lay that many points. You're more apt to take the dog in games like this when it comes to big numbers. Small lean to the under here. This is not going to be a game on my card, and this won't even probably be on my television on Saturday.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, you bring up, UAB and Bill Clark. He should be up for Coach of the Year if he didn't win it already. I mean, what he's been able to do with this squad, I just don't think they're that good. I mean, you look at the wins that they made it all the way to the Conference USA Championship game, and really the win was against Louisiana Tech, but they played Louisiana Tech. I believe Louisiana Tech's quarterback wasn't playing for that game, so they really got lucky with their scheduling in Conference USA, and they got blown out by teams that, had the ability to, like Southern Miss. We just talked about FAU. FAU blew them out 49-6 in the championship game. They lost 30-7 to Tennessee. I mean, I guess they hung in there with Western Kentucky, but that was in the beginning of the season, man. I think App State's the side here, but again, you bring up the fact of App State, how motivated are they in New Orleans? I believe they were in New Orleans Bowl last year as well, so I don't think that's all that good of a sign for App State. Man, I know we talked about the Friday and Saturday bowl games, throwing those out there. I don't think we're going to have another college football podcast before the Marshall UCF game, so if we could just quick hit this real quick, and then on Tuesday we'll likely have another podcast getting the next 10 games down. That will be Christmas Eve, so we got BYU Hawaii starting that one off. But Marshall UCF here, if you got any quick notes, 17.5, even bigger spread here. That's what the Knights are laying to Marshall Thundering Herd, 61.5 being the total. Anything here, Marshall versus UCF?
Couple of notes here. I haven't really gotten that far in terms of the handicapping, but I'll give you some notes that I have. Brandon Wimbush, as if that was really going to affect anything. He said he's going pro. He's not playing in the game. Gabriel Davis, the wide receiver, said he's going pro, but no word on if he's skipping the ball. They asked the coach about it today. He kind of was vague about it. He's like, well, the players are practicing who are going to play. But, we don't know. And Gabriel Davis is a pretty big part of this offense. They've got several running backs that are really good. He's the number one wide receiver, the Gabriel connection. So that's something to bear watch as we get closer to this game. Is Gabriel Davis going to play? Another thing here is UCF lost their offensive coordinator to Ole Miss. And so how much is that going to affect things that he's not there to coordinate the offense? Is that going to affect things? The Knights have averaged or allowing 22.8 points per game, 344.8 yards per game. To me, this is one of those things where UCF could probably name their score. If they're motivated, if they're ready for this game, they're going to win this game. But I don't know about Gabriel Davis. If he doesn't play, how smooth is the offense? The offensive coordinator's gone. So there are a couple of things to watch with regards to the headlines in this game. Maybe read some press clippings to see how the offense is going without their offensive coordinator, to see if Gabriel Davis is going to play. So that's something to kind of look at for this one as we get closer. I wish I could give you more definitive things, but there are some moving parts to this game that would certainly affect the handicap a bunch of days out.
All right, Matt. Well, that does it for all of the bowl games before Monday, December 23rd is the one we just hit on. So throw it over to you, and then we can answer some questions at the end as far as the FCS games you wanted to throw out there.
All right, so before we get to that real quick, I found a list of some of the guys, big names who are not playing in their bowl games. Just to tell you right now, the handicap, obviously the lines have kind of baked in a little bit and the line moves have happened. Some of the names I've read, Cam Akers not playing for Florida State. A.J. Dillon not playing for Boston College. Brandon Ayuk, I'm guessing is how you say his last name, the wide receiver for Arizona State. Trayvon Hill and Jonathan Garvin, two defensive linemen for Miami. They're both not playing, hence why we like Louisiana Tech a little bit. Justin Matabuki from Texas A&M. Cameron Dantzler of Mississippi State. A cornerback, C.J. Henderson, a cornerback for Florida. Something to keep your eyes on as we get closer and closer to these games. More and more players could announce they're going pro and decide as to whether or not they're going to play, and that's certainly going to affect the handicap. Real quick on the two FCS games, because I know that we got some feedback on those when we did that the last podcast. First game, North Dakota State, Montana State. Two teams, and there's some incredible stats. Let me tell you, Drew. So North Dakota State has rushed the ball 637 times this season. They've thrown it 273 times this season. Montana State has rushed it 642 times this season. They have passed it just 358 times this season. So both teams want to run the ball, but they're going in different directions. North Dakota State in their last three games averaging just 22.3 points per game and 363 yards per game, and that's against Southern Illinois, Nicholls State, and Illinois State. And that's three top 60 defenses in terms of scoring defense. Montana State in their last three games averaging nearly 40 points per game, over 450 yards per game. So and that's against some defenses. Austin Peay is a very good defense. We talked about them last week. Each team is very good in terms of rushing, over 260 yards per game rushing, but none of them have a 1,000-yard rusher. They all do it by committee. Each team has four players that they're going to turn to. So there's going to be a lot of runs here. Both quarterbacks are very good. Both teams are playing to their strengths. North Dakota State, the number one scoring defense in the country. Montana State, 19th. I think you know where I'm going with this one, Drew. We're leaning at least early on to 47. And for those who didn't watch the other podcast, these numbers are really fluid. As of this taping, the one place I see it, North Dakota State minus 17, Montana State's the total at 47. That could move. So you can wait, hope it goes up, take a little bit more value, or take it now and potentially, lose some value when it does go up. I think under at 47 with 2 running teams is the play. We're not getting a great North Dakota State team right now. Same number, same total for the Weber State JMU game. Last week we talked about it. I kind of liked Weber State. I wish I said it with more conviction because they ended up winning the game in the snow against Montana, getting revenge from the team that beat them a couple weeks ago. JMU, we had the under in that game. That had no problems. Northern Iowa's offense was absolutely atrocious. JMU had some problems with regards to holding on to the ball. I think once again we're going to see another team, Weber State, whose offense is terrible. The Constantine kid has nearly as many interceptions as passing touchdowns this season. JMU's offense was very sloppy last week. You're going to want to have them do it once again. They're going to be better. There's going to be more precision from that side of the ball. Don't expect 17, 16 points from them once again this week. Weber State's defense is really good. JMU's defense is a lot better. I love the 47 right now. I'm jumping in on the 47 right now. If I lose some value, oh well. It did open up at 51, so it would have been even better to get the 51. It's down to 47 now. I think you can either wait, hope for some value. Maybe I would take it down to 44, or take it now at 47, and then maybe even take it again if it goes up to 50, 51. I think the under's worth a look here. JMU North Dakota State's our championship game as we expected. And by the way, Drew, who was the one sleeper? Even though we didn't want to put any sleepers out there, it was Weber State. Yeah. They're still playing. I don't want them to beat JMU because I'm enjoying covering JMU. Obviously, we said JMU's our champion, but our sleeper is still left in one of the 4 teams with just 2 games left to go. So I'm looking at the under in both games. I like the numbers now. I could like them even more in the 50s if it gets that high, but I would take it right now at 47.
Great stuff, Matt. Breaking down the FCS as well. You can check out his service, sportsmemo.com, and special coupon code, guys, here. Waited a while to say it, but MMM59 at checkout will give you his 7-day all-access package. You'll get all his college basketball, all his FCS games, FBS bowl games, any NFL he's throwing out there for just $59. Huge savings there, sportsmemo.com. 7-day all-access package with mid-major Matt, using the coupon code MMM59 at checkout for his 7-day all-access pass for just $59. Matt, we got some great feedback on the last pod and some questions here. Shout out to @MikeyMac58 on Twitter. Would like to hear your thoughts on the Hawaii Bowl. Hawaii at home and better offense, but BYU the more physical team, better defense. Which style wins out? Hawaii had a great season. Will be motivated to cap it off at home, don't you think? ? That is the first game we're going to be breaking down on next week's Bowl podcast. But off the top of my head, I'll start here, Matt. I think Hawaii's the side at home. Motivation, I think, is going to be there. They did have a great season, the offense up and down, plus the fact I'm not going to argue that they have the better defense than BYU, but I don't think Hawaii's defense is very bad this year at all. I think that they play tough. Their linebackers are really good, and they hold BYU at bay. Now, I will kind of pump the brakes in terms of I haven't really bet BYU all season. Not a team I caught a lot, so not too confident in this one. But as of a look right now, I didn't bet it yet. I do kind of like the Rainbow Warriors plus the 2. Anything from you, Matt, and the Hawaii Bowl?
So, much like you, I watched a little bit of BYU this year. I watched the Liberty game, and I also watched the game before the Liberty game a little bit. I watched the Liberty game because obviously it was on ESPN2, and I enjoy watching Liberty. BYU has an impressive group of skill position guys, but they're starting to get picked off. I believe it was the Finau kid is out for the season at running back. They had another running back who's been banged up. And it looks like Zach Wilson's going to be the starter at quarterback. They've gone through 4 or 5 quarterbacks this year. Jaron Hall's going to be the backup. Baylor Romney's not 100%. He's been dealing with a foot injury all year long. And the Critchlow kid just entered his name in the transfer portal. You're right. I think BYU probably has the better defense. They're the more physical defense up front. I was looking at the last couple of Hawaii Bowls that Hawaii played. Last year, they lost 31-14 to Louisiana Tech as a 1-point favorite. 2016, they beat Middle Tennessee.
MTSU, yeah.
Right, 52-35 as a touchdown dog. 2010, now granted we're going back, they lost 62-35 to Tulsa as a 10-point favorite. And then in 2008, they lost to Notre Dame 49-21. I don't know, that doesn't necessarily carry over, but it doesn't guarantee that Hawaii is going to win the game at home. BYU's got a ton of Hawaiian kids, so you know that there's going to be a lot of family in the stands when you consider something like this. I haven't fully dug into this yet, so I know that we'll touch on this in the next podcast we do next week. My early lean, I agree with you, is to Hawaii, but there's a lot of factors that point me towards BYU potentially with the familiarity. And look, these two don't like each other. Like, there was some talk about Hawaii being really excited more about playing BYU than even making the Mountain West Championship game, because these two groups don't like each other with all the Hawaiian kids on each team. It's going to be an interesting game to watch, and we'll definitely dig into it more in the next podcast, but that's my early thoughts in the Hawaii Bowl.
All right, good stuff, Matt. And last question here we got from Zach Will, 819, plus a couple other numbers on his Twitter handle. Interested to hear about the Utah State versus Kent State game now that Jordan Love got busted yesterday, so he will most likely be suspended for it. Well, it looks like he's going to actually play, Matt. Any you want to cap off that Utah State game we already broke down?
Yeah, so certainly when it comes to that, look, I'm actually semi-glad he's playing because the number's going to go back up. Now, I like Kent State before the announcement. I like Kent State after the announcement. I think Kent State is worth a look, potentially a little sprinkle on the money line. I think that Kent State has been playing with house money, winner of 3 straight. Their offense is in good form right now. I definitely like the spread. I'll wait right now, see if I can get 6.5 or 7. And certainly that's a key number, the 7. But I think Kent State wins this game potentially, but I'll take the 7 if it gets there once again.
All right, Matt. And I believe you had a tweet something about the Jordan Love suspension. Did it make you mad that he's playing, or you agree with it, something of that nature?
Well, obviously, yes, there was a guy in Salt Lake City, Utah, who had a tweet that basically said, yeah, they're both going to be available and they're going to play and they're going to be eligible. And I was just like, that'll show the kids. I mean, I don't really care. Look, they need to. It's legal in a lot of places. I don't know if it's legal in Utah or wherever these guys got caught. But that doesn't really matter. I don't know. I kind of wish they didn't play to make my Kent State bet look even better. But hey, they're going to play, and it's not like Jordan Love's been great this year either. He has had, I believe, 17 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. It's not like he's been that great this year anyway. They play with the quick pace, and I have not been that impressed with Utah State. And I think the MAC team, hopefully, knock on wood, can win this game, but at least cover the 6.5, the 7, whatever number you get it at.
All right, Matt, great stuff as always. Guys, coupon code MMM59 at checkout for Mid-Major Matt's 7-day all-access package. You'll get his college hoops, college football, both FCS and FBS, NFL as well for just $59. 7-day all-access, sportsmemo.com, coupon code MMM59 at checkout. Mid-Major Matt, anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
Just as we said, this is a developing thing with regards to the bowls all the way to the end. Just keep your eyes on the headlines. We'll update you. Follow Drew on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. We'll tell you when there's things that are out there to happen. But just remember, there are constant things that are going to change the handicap in these games. Certainly, there could be ones, we're taping this, as you said, Wednesday morning. Something could happen Wednesday afternoon. Who knows? So just keep your eyes open and constantly vigilant, and ask us if there's anything else. And we'll be back next week with some more. All
right, Matt. Yeah, shout out to you. Wednesday morning on the East Coast right now, near 1 a.m. So appreciate it. I know that the other handicappers out there or just listeners are appreciating it as well, Matt. So best of luck, man. Be safe, and we'll talk either next Monday or next Tuesday for the rest of the bowl podcast. That sound good?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, guys. Best of luck with your bets. We'll talk tomorrow, talking to Andrew McGinnis, NHL, betting on Thursday's card. So come back and join us. Best of luck with your bets.